Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's corporate startup pitch event focusing on the future of food. Appreciate you for tuning in this afternoon. My name is Nikita, and I'm part of the SGInnovate investments team focusing on corporate engagement. Part of what we do is to provide corporates with access to deep tech startups relevant to their focus areas. Today, we're excited to have 7 AgriFood startups based in Singapore joining us for this pitch event to showcase their solutions across developing functional ingredients, the next generation of food and beverages, and last but not the least, enabling technologies that make our food system more sustainable. But before we begin, let us welcome our Executive Director of Investments, Mr. Xianhui Tong, to give us his welcome remarks. Xianhui, please.
Thanks, Nikita, and thank you all for taking the time to be with us today. As Nikita shared, my name is Xianhui. I head investments for SGInnovate. For those of you who are not familiar with us, we are a Singapore government-backed VC firm focused primarily on early-stage emerging tech such as cultivated protein, cell and gene therapy, quantum technology, photonics, so on and so forth. Just like those of you who have worked with startups, we realized actually quite early on in our journey that money alone wasn't going to help such startups succeed. So we built competencies in areas such as ecosystem growth and corporate engagement, as well as talent development and matching. Today's event is an example of some of the activities we undertake to help corporates connect with the latest developments in technological areas of interest. Food has always been, to a certain extent, the bedrock on which all civilizations have been built. Today, we struggle with the same challenges that our forefathers had in addressing issues of availability, increasing nutritional value of food, improving the yield of the crops, and all at a manageable cost. Adding to the confusion is this issue of sustainability, a relatively recent development, but it's a global trend which is driving a lot of innovation in this space. I'm really therefore delighted that today we have 7 very interesting startups presenting that will seek to address these issues, and I look forward to hearing from them very soon. I wish you all a very great event.
Thank you, Xianhui. Up next, we are grateful to have Ms. Jennifer Morton, the Corporate Engagement Manager at Good Food Institute APAC. Jennifer leads GFI APAC's work with the private sector in the region to accelerate the growth of alternative proteins across the supply chain. She will be sharing insights on the latest developments in the alternative protein industry, as well as how corporates can leverage technologies in this space. Jennifer, please.
Thanks, Nikita, and hi, everyone. Delighted to be here this afternoon to talk a little bit about where we are in the sector before you hear from some of the startups that will be pitching to you. So to say a couple of words first about where I come from. So my name is Jennifer Morton, and I'm the Corporate Engagement Manager at the Good Food Institute APAC. And who the Good Food Institute are, we're a global network of nonprofit organizations, and we work with industry, with policymakers, and with scientists to really drive forward a more scalable and market-driven approach to how we can think about the future of protein. And at GFI, we believe that instead of changing behavior and asking consumers to change their behavior, we can leverage science and innovation and start to create the meat, eggs, and dairy products that people love, but which are produced in more sustainable ways. And so we do that by focusing on 3 production pillars, which we think have the most promise in this regard, which is growing meat, eggs, and dairy from plant sources, using fermentation, and also using cell cultivation technologies. And what we do is we take a systematic approach to how we can drive forward progress and also solve the bottlenecks in this sector. And that looks like working in these 3 spheres you see on the screen. So in policy, with industry, and in the science sphere. And we conduct and fund foundational research. We mobilize as much public sector as we can into the sector, which we think is commensurate with the impact that this sector can drive in terms of sustainability. And we also support policymakers to align the sector with their policy objectives and create a clear path to market for those products. Most importantly, we're 100% funded by philanthropy. So we do our research freely. We make everything available freely online and make our support all free of charge. So more than happy for anyone to reach out and to see what GFI can do for you. So I'd like to start by talking about some of the headlines, which I'm sure we've all seen. Headlines projecting the end of the sector. And I think it is important to not just denounce all this criticism, but really understand where it's coming from and what we can learn from it. So there are two things I think we can say are true. So one is in some markets, notably the US, the growth of plant-based meat was not as fast as some projected. We had really high valuations. We had a lot of very positive forecasts about how the sector would grow. And that prompted some of these headlines when they didn't see that come through in the sales figures. And secondly, for some production platforms, there is a continuing criticism of some of these production platforms, notably cultivated meat, which are still far away from price parity. And it is important to note that all tech goes through this cycle, the hype cycle, and it's happened from computers, it's happened to solar. And I think we really need to think about, what are the technologies that will succeed? Those are ones that will have a really clear need state that they're solving for, and the ones that can mobilize, create, and fund these very actionable roadmaps to solve some of the challenges. That's where this criticism is coming for. So what I want to do is show a couple of slides that I think shows there's still enormous potential in this sector, and that these headlines are too soon in terms of what they're trying to claim. So first, let's take a step back and not just focus on the year-to-year fluctuations, but take a longer-term horizon and look at, how has plant-based been developing alternative proteins, I should say, to be encompass all the different production pillars over the past longer term horizon. So you see on the screen here graphs going back to 2011, and what we see is that the sector has been growing for a long time. So in the past 5 years, in the case of plant-based meat, the sector roughly doubled in size, and today it's about 6.1 billion market and a 230% growth since a decade ago. On plant-based milk, we see fast growth as well. Now we're at 15% market share, so it shows how quickly these transitions can happen. But of course, to level set us, we are only at less than 1% of market share of the meat market. So really, really only at the beginning and a long way to go. We really need frequency among consumers when they purchase, and also to attract new consumers to the category. So why, is this sector niche, and why are we very sure that this scale will be reached in time? So the biggest reason is because it's a need. So if we look at sustainability and what's happening, you see the news and all the extreme weather events, there are planetary boundaries that we are more than aware that we're starting to breach. And what I want to show is this graph, which I think is one of the best visualizations that really shows why food sector has to be key in the whole climate target achievement. So if we look on the left here, what you see global emissions. This is from 2010, and you see the contributions to global greenhouse gas emissions. And this yellow bar is agriculture in 2010, making up about 20% of emissions. And in the green bar, you see all the other sectors, so industry, transport, buildings, and so on. So the worrying and important thing is that if we continue as business as usual, agriculture under business as usual will rise to this next yellow bar that you see. Now, if you look at this red dashed line, this is the 2050 emissions threshold for all sectors. So this is industry, transport, buildings, which means that all of that green bar would have to fit in that tiny sliver if we're to meet our climate targets and we're not to do anything about agriculture. So obviously, it's a key part of the solution that we need to do something about. And researchers have researched all the different solutions, whether it's livestock efficiency, whether it's regenerative agriculture. And what they found is that the two most important interventions, again and again, come back as these two: drastic decrease in meat and dairy consumption and much less food waste. So I think it's very, consistent and clear that we need to do something in agriculture, and we need to shift this bar down this far so we can fit all the other sectors in the gap between the yellow bar and the red line. So here's the problem. We cannot sell a societal problem. We need to sell a market problem. We need to give something to consumers that fits a need. Do they like it? Does it have a benefit? and can they afford it? And so if we're in this bottom left quadrant, which you see on the left, where there's higher cost, where products don't really have a clear benefit to consumers, we can't really expect there to be a lot of sales. You see that in the data. Here's a study which showed, no consumers are willing to pay a premium for parity without a value added over the conventional thing that they could eat anyway. So what we need to try to do is move over to the right-hand side of the quadrant where we're really clear about the benefits we're giving to consumers, and also move up so that we're creating these solutions in a very affordable way. And what's promising is if we see in the data, we see that consumers are willing to pay more. And if we want to get to a critical mass, not everyone will pay more, but then we can bring the critical mass into the fold when we bring costs down, but still provide these benefits. And that's exactly what we're trying to do in the alternative protein sector. So here we see there is an unmet need. So if you see this left-hand graph, we see consumers do want to eat these foods, the blue lines, but in the yellow, we see how many are doing it. And obviously there's a big gulf there between consumers who want to do it and consumers who actually are. So there's certainly a market opportunity. And then we also see the same if we look on the right with cultivated meat. So obviously this is not really on the market in most countries yet, but a lot of consumers are looking and willing to try this product. And when we look at the reasons, why consumers are interested, we see first the barriers. So the barriers are that they want it to taste the same as the products they love, and they want to be able to not pay an arm and a leg for it. And why they want to opt for plant-based is because we see largely a health benefit is what consumers seeing. They see whichever health benefit it is, they think plant-based can provide. So it's really as simple as these three things. It sounds simple, but it's not simple in practice. But it's, we need these products to taste better. We need them to come down the cost curve, and we need to provide a stronger health benefit or a really clear need state that we're meeting for consumers. I also want to highlight on the cost side what's been happening, and we do see some progress, or at least maybe a hint of what's to come. So we saw a lot of supply chain fluctuations last year with the Ukraine crisis, as well as bird flu and other diseases hitting livestock supply chains. And what we saw at the end of 2022, start of 2023 in the US, was that plant-based eggs as one category actually became cheaper than the conventional equivalent, and sales went up. So we do know that affordability is going to drive a lot of the demand. And if we keep climbing down the cost curve, which is happening, then these products will increase in their market share. I also do want to highlight cultivated meat, which is something many people are extraordinarily interested in. And what we see in our studies that we've done together with third-party researchers at GFI is that we're still far above commodity prices. So if you look at the number 3 scenario using efficient use of inputs and media, we still see we're over $100 per kilogram of this product. But we know why. We know that growth media is driving the majority of it, and we know that 99% of the media costs are driven by growth factors. So we can really see what are the problems, how do we solve for those, and as you can see, the modeled scenarios using some of the solutions that we think are possible to drive down media costs, we can get to competitive prices, and we think costs will fall dramatically, which has already been happening in the sector. So a lot of optimism on the horizon for costs, and we see the trends going in the right way. I think one of the biggest things to highlight is the signaling power of what these industry incumbents are doing. So you see many of the biggest meat companies on the screen, and virtually all of them have made strategic investments in the sector. My favorite is this quote from Tyson, one of the world's biggest meat companies, who said, "If we can grow meat without the animal, why wouldn't we?" So clearly, we're really seeing something in terms of consumer preferences shifting, as well as this cost calculation as meat prices go up, as alternatives come down, that we can really start to create a very clear value proposition for these products. So before you go on to hear about lots more innovations from the startups, I do just want to call out a couple just to showcase some of the innovations and how fast they're moving in this sector. So on the left-hand side, you see a company called Momentum Foods. they're blending 90% plant-based with 10% animal-derived ingredients. So rather than thinking it has to be plant-based or it has to be conventional, there's really looking at those innovation at the edges. And in this case, it's blending the two to solve some of the taste and sensory problems that others in the plant-based may be facing. We have Mission Barnes, who are doing a cultivated fat to go into plant-based sausage product, who partnered with a large corporate to use their distribution, their scale, their brand awareness to drive penetration of their products. So, all you corporates on the call, you have an enormous role to play in scaling this sector. And we see some of these partnerships providing a really interesting trailblazing example. You see Chunk Foods, a novel texturization method that they've come up with to avoid extrusion, in which case to lower the cost, but still get this fibrous texture of meat. And then over on the right, you see Climax Foods, which is using AI machine learning to come up with plant-based equivalents of a casein, a dairy casein protein, which they believe is a more cost-effective way to create biomimicry of dairy products. And they partnered with Bell Group, a large dairy manufacturer, to scale these products to a range of cheeses. So just a spotlight of some of the innovations going on. Here, it took me, a few minutes just to pull up a couple I could remember from the past 2 months alone. We have this enormous one of the US approving cultivated meat. We have other corporates like ADM partnering with this company who are the first to do gaseous fermentation at scale. We have this UK grant that's come in for cultivated meat. So really a range of innovation. Just the pace is so fast. We're by no means where those headlines predicted. Here's a set that look very different from the ones you saw at the start. And then lastly, I do want to finish in this quick fire just with governments, which we see as an absolutely key stakeholder in getting this in this sector to scale. And what we've seen is that they've more than doubled their investments in 2022 alone. Obviously, the US has a lot of signaling power as a regulator. So having approved cultivated meat, that will spur on developments, we believe, in many different jurisdictions. And lastly, in the legislative landscape, we do see that courts are being careful about how they handle opposition to these products, temporarily suspending, rejecting, overturning some of these labeling combats that have come up. So I want to finish there and hopefully leave on a positive note of where we see this sector going. And I wish the best of luck to all the startups presenting. And yeah, we're always here to support SGFI. So feel free to reach out to me on my email on the screen. Thank you very much.
Up next, we have Shen-Yong from Innovate. Innovate develops integrated technologies at the interface of cell and tissue engineering, precision engineering, and food science to enable the production of affordable, delicious, and healthy cell-enhanced meat. Shen-Yong, over to you to share more.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shen-Yong from Innovate, and we develop technologies that enable delicious and affordable animal-free meat products for all meat lovers. The meat industry today is increasingly unsustainable due to its outsized contributions to global land and water usage, climate emissions, and antibiotic resistance. In fact, nothing less than a new global agricultural revolution may be required to address the increasing global demand for meat. Alternative meats, both plant and cell-based, enable higher feed conversion ratios and lower climate emissions, and hence a critical path towards sustainability. Yet, alternative meat today is not a true alternative to meat. Plant-based beef costs twice as much as real beef and does not taste as good. And while cells can improve meat flavor, using cells alone does not guarantee the texture of real meat, costs 20 times more due to the high production cost of cells, and faces significant regulatory barriers. While hybrid meat decreases cell cost by blending plant and cell ingredients, it is still expensive and faces similar regulatory barriers due to the use of whole cells. Innovate has developed proprietary solutions that overcome these 4 barriers to mass adoption of alternative meats by enabling the production of cell-enhanced hybrid meat alternatives that match the price and flavor of real meat and scalably mimics the texture of real meat cuts while aiming to bypass regulatory barriers. These solutions are enabled by 2 key patented technologies owned by us. Firstly, our cell essence meat flavor enhancer technology extracts and amplifies the meaty flavor of every cell used, greatly reducing the number of cells required to less than 1% by weight and maximizing cost effectiveness. Using a cell extract rather than whole cells potentially allows us to bypass regulatory barriers and accelerate market entry, making a positive impact on sustainability more quickly. Secondly, our smart precision meat cut technology achieves a quantum leap in our ability to mimic the fibrous texture of real meat cuts at scale and in an automated fashion, enabling us to target the higher value alternative meat cuts market. These two enabling technologies are supported by complementary in-licensed IP such as cell lines, color control technologies, and their development and translation into products is spearheaded by our innovation-focused R&D and product development teams. To realize our vision of animal-free meats for all meat lovers and our mission to commercialize innovative technologies that empower the alternative meat industry to develop delicious, appetizing, and healthy animal-free meat products. Our business model leverages our R&D team and strategic innovation partners to generate novel IP, validate our technologies, and develop three major classes of products that will be monetized primarily by B2B sales, licensing, or distribution to various market segments spanning manufacturers, food service, and retailers. Firstly, we'll sell our cell essence meat flavor enhancers and natural colorants as functional ingredients, enabling plant-based companies to offer tastier and more appetizing products, and cell-based companies to bring down production costs. Secondly, we will license our automated small machinery to enable alternative meat manufacturers to climb the value chain from minced meat to more premium whole-cut meat products. And thirdly, we'll sell cell-enhanced hybrid meat as tasty and price-competitive end products. Although our cell essence or small precision meat cut technologies independently position us to compete along either the taste or texture axes, our strategic advantage is multiplied when we combine both technologies to position ourselves in a high-value, potentially larger, and much less crowded space for cell-enhanced whole-cut meats, compared with the several hundred companies competing in a plant-based minced meat category, for example. Our plan for this year includes developing bench-scale proof of concepts for cell essence enhanced hybrid meat products and bench-scale automation of key small precision meat cut fabrication steps. We are working towards regulatory approval, pilot-scale production, and B2B market entry of cell essence-based products by mid to end next year, and anticipate the pilot-scale production and B2B market entry of automated small precision meat cuts by early 2025. Our core team comprises a serial technopreneur with a broad academic network, an R&D driver trained by world-class bioengineers at MIT, a businessman with over 30 years of F&B experience, and a mix of life sciences, food technologists, business people, and even culinary specialists. With that, I thank you, and I look forward to hearing from all of you. Thank you.
Up next, we'll be having Jake from Prefer once again. So just to recap, Prefer makes bean-free coffee using novel fermentation technologies to ensure that coffee remains affordable and becomes sustainable.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jake Berber, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Prefer, and we make coffee without coffee beans. I'm a neuroscientist by training with an MBA. I previously led a clinical team at a biotech startup before realizing that I needed to be working on climate solutions. And that's when I became a venture capitalist investing in sustainable food tech startups. And while I was there, I learned about the unsustainability of coffee, but I had no solution to that myself until I moved to Singapore last year. And that's where I met my co-founder and CTO, Dingjie Tan. DJ is an A-star scientist known best as the Prince of Fermentation, because of his previous kombucha company and his food consultation work for Michelin star bars and restaurants, helping them create flavors from fermentation. So when I came to DJ with this problem of the unsustainability of coffee, not only did we find that it was a massive climate opportunity, but it was an even larger market opportunity. And that's because coffee supply is diminishing. In fact, due to climate change, 50% of the land where coffee is grown today will not be able to by 2050. And in that same time period, it's expected that coffee demand is expected to rise by 3 times. And so that basically means that the coffee that we enjoy today as a commodity is becoming a luxury. And coffee bean production is carbon intensive, which is accelerating climate change, decreasing coffee's ability to grow and increasing prices. And this negative flywheel goes on and on. So how big is this market that we're disrupting a $444 billion market? As I said, this is a market with a 50% decrease in supply and 3x increase in demand in the next 25 years. So we're focused today on the Arabica coffee bean because it is the bean most affected by climate change. And we're starting here in APAC, which is a $85 billion market. So there's a few things that we can do and a few unique selling points that we have over coffee beans. So first of all, we can create a consistent supply regardless of what's going on with the climate. And because we can have a consistent supply, we can create stable and affordable pricing for our customers. Secondly, we have reliable quality, and we have reliable quality because we have complete control over our flavors and our caffeine levels. And secondly, we are environmentally sustainable, and we have estimated that our coffee requires about 10 times less CO2 than traditional coffee beans. So how do we do this? So our technology that is proprietary and scalable looks like this. So firstly, we acquire our ingredients, bread, okara, and brewer spent grain. All of our ingredients are byproducts of food production that would otherwise be thrown away. We use these ingredients and introduce them to our food grade, non-genetically modified microbes. And using our proprietary fermentation technology, we create the flavor precursors of coffee. And then using our proprietary roasting process, we convert these precursors into the exact flavor aroma volatiles that are found in coffee beans. And then we grind this product and we sell these coffee grounds to coffee chains and FMCGs. So today we are in R&D and we are having tastings with customers who would like to work with. And from these tastings, we have signed 150K of USD in signed LOIs, and we plan to commercialize these LOIs in Q4 of this year. So in Q4 of this year, we plan to scale up into capacity of 10 tons of ground coffee per month to service the Singapore market. In 2024, we will be scaling this up to 100 tons per month to service APAC. And then in 2025, we will be making 300 tons per month to service the global market and beginning our next product development beyond coffee. So what do I mean by that? So at Prefer, we're just getting started with coffee. We've developed a platform fermentation technology that allows us to create a portfolio of different flavors, just getting started with coffee. So Prefer is leveraging our fermentation as a platform technology to create a portfolio of crops that are being threatened by climate change, such as cacao, vanilla, citrus, hazelnut. The list of crops being threatened by climate change unfortunately goes on and will continue to. So at Prefer, we're using our technology to make sure that they remain affordable and become sustainable. So I spoke a bit about us, and I want to talk about our team and our supporters. So Irong is our R&D scientist. She previously led product development at Crust, where she was making beer and other delicious beverages from bread waste. And she's also a certified coffee barista, helping us with different applications. We're also backed by venture capital funds and Accelerator, Mass Challenge, and Entrepreneur First, as well as we're backed by government entities here in Singapore, Enterprise Singapore and A-Star. So with that being said, we are raising a $1.5 million seed round. We are looking for corporate partnerships. And so if either as an investor or as a collaborator you're interested, please reach out to me. Thank you.
Up next, we have Max from tHEMEat company. tHEMEat company has developed a vegan and non-GMO Veem flavor catalyst technology that allows alternative proteins and flavorings to replicate the look, cook, smell, and taste of animal meats affordably and effectively. We'll be closing the poll for Prefer in 10 seconds. And following that, Max, the time is yours.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Tam. I'm the CEO of tHEMEat company, a food tech company that specializes in the manufacture and sales of affordable, vegan, non-GMO ingredients that can replicate the look, cook, smell, and taste of animal meats in alternative protein products. So our cornerstone product is actually called Vegan Heme, or Veem for short. It's an ingredient which we believe can solve the adoption barriers that are holding alternative proteins back from en masse customer adoption. So currently, alternative proteins suffer from low customer adoption rates because they are more expensive and they taste worse compared to animal meats, giving them a very low value proposition. So we believe that our Veem flavor catalyst ingredient can solve this problem by allowing alternative proteins to reach price and quality parities with animal meats for three reasons. Firstly, Veem itself is very cost effective, so it makes alternative protein production more affordable than animal meats. Secondly, Veem can produce meat identical flavors through the action of flavor catalysis. And thirdly, Veem is completely non-GMO and vegan. So it is for these three reasons that we believe that any alternative proteins with the VEEM technology will be more economically attractive and palatable, and will be better able to penetrate into the meat market and win customers for the meat market. So VEEM works because we have two core innovations. Firstly, we produce VEEM very efficiently from vegetable feedstock. So this makes our VEEM vegan and non-GMO, and because we are relying on cost-effective, efficient chemical industrial methods to produce VEEM, our VEEM is 10 to 20 times more affordable than precision fermentation heme. The second innovation is that VEEM is able to conduct flavor catalysis. So what's flavor catalysis? Because of VEEM's unique structure, it's able to increase the number and diversity of cooking reactions and flavor molecules being formed in alternative proteins that have been flavored with VEEM during the cooking process. So this makes the alternative protein more delicious and aromatic, and we have verified this using sensory tests. And because VEEM is a catalyst, you only need to use a little amount of it to actually obtain and produce that meat identical flavors. So we have our first product that we call the VEEM powder, which is our accurate, cost-effective meat colorant, odorant, and flavorant. That what this means is that when you take the VEEM powder and apply it to your alternative protein vehicle, it actually imparts the alternative protein with the colors of meat, and it actually, when you cook it, it undergoes a color change from red to brown because it's conducting the same chemical reactions as that you find in meat. But the difference is that VEEM powder is completely vegan, non-GMO, and the ingredients used to make it are approved by international food agencies as well. So the VEEM powder, we also have different kind of flavors such as beef, pork, and salmon. So this is what happens when we apply a VEEM powder to a soy texturized vegetable protein. We get our proof of concept product that we call the meat bacon bits. So the VEEM powder allows the meat bacon bits to look and taste exactly like bacon. And because the VEEM powder is able to mimic the natural flavor formation of pork, this means the meat bacon bits is able to synergize with a multitude of ingredients and cuisines and taste very natural. The VEEM powder also allows the meat bacon bits to realize low-cost manufacturing, so the cost of producing bacon bits is 3 times lesser compared to our closest non-VEEM competitor. And VEEM also provides a very critical source of iron. So why we believe VEEM is the best choice for customers if they want to, if they're looking for affordable meat identical flavorings. Because if you get your flavorings from, let's say, from heme manufacturers who use precision fermentation to produce heme, this makes the heme very expensive because of the heme taking a long time to be produced, and it also runs a very high risk of litigation. It's GMO, but you're not guaranteed to get meat identical flavors. If you also source vegan meat flavorings from existing flavor and fragrance providers, usually these flavoring solutions are simplistic and do not encompass the entire flavor profile of animal meats. So you need to purchase multiple of these flavoring solutions experiment, making the whole process costly and slow, and you're also still not guaranteed to get meat-like flavors. But with VEEM, because VEEM is affordable, so customers using VEEM can realize lower costs and higher margins. It's also easy to apply. You don't have to reconfigure your production chain. It's vegan and non-GMO, and because of its flavor catalysis action, it's able to produce meat identical flavors. So we actually sell VEEM in two forms. We actually sell VEEM, if you're a flavor and fragrance industry, we sell VEEM as an ingredient that you can add directly into your vegan meat flavorings or processed flavors to enhance its flavor profile. If you're an alternative protein manufacturer, we sell the VEEM as a VEEM powder, which is an all-in-one vegan meat flavorant and colorant that you can apply to your alternative protein to impart with it the sensual properties of animal meats, but while keeping it vegan. So we also come up with a process to help you find the perfect VEEM flavoring, and it goes like this: you discuss requirements and you send a sample so that we can optimize the VEEM technology for you. After multiple rounds of revisions and evaluations, right, and we have determined what is the desired flavor outcome, we will sign a contract, we will draft it, we'll sign it, and of course we'll manufacture and ship your VEEM customized VEEM flavor to you. So this is our company team. We are consisting of we are founded by 4 NUS staff members, and we're also well supported by a graduate team of diverse scientific backgrounds. So we are very proficient in what we do. So we also do food demonstrations. So if you're actually interested in seeing how VEEM works, you can come see, taste, and smell by arranging a food demonstration with us by emailing us at this address. If not, you can also scan this QR code to find out more about our products or visit our website. So with that, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Next up, we have Yenting from Dietrics. Dietrics is looking to upcycle fibrous food waste into functional ingredients, such as a fiber powder that reduces fat absorption. Yenting, over to you to tell us more.
Hi everyone, I'm Yenting and I'm here to represent Dietrics, which is Southeast Asia's fiber food ingredient company that aims to achieve tasty, healthy, and natural foods. So maybe before I begin, just a quick question to the audiences. Can you imagine having a piece of cake that tastes so good and doesn't make you fat? If this is not everybody's dream, at least this is my dream. And this brings me to the vision of Dietrics, which is to create healthier living with sustainable ingredients. And its mission is to explore the simple possibilities of natural ingredients from fibrous food waste to create tasty, healthier food. So the very first problem that we're looking at is obesity, which is the worst leading risk factor for chronic diseases and premature deaths. In Asia, there are about 10% of adults who are obese and 30% of adults who are overweight. Main reasons being it's tough to change a habit. Consumers are usually unwilling to compromise on taste, and sometimes socio-economic situations make it tough to access healthy foods. So our solution is the Dietrics fiber, which is a patented joint discovery between Harvard and NTU. The key value proposition lies in the fact that it does not alter sensory experience in terms of taste, texture, and formulation, reduces fat absorption by 36%, and it can come from natural sustainable sources such as your fibrous food waste. So here are some of the examples of the food applications is respective market sizes, the total potential market sizes of the food applications listed over here, and some of the partners that we would love to work with. Some of them, we are already speaking to them as well as doing ongoing food application projects with them. So how the fiber actually works, without the fiber, the fat molecules in the gut would just be dispersed. With the Dietrics fiber, what happens is a fibrous structure would be formed, trapping the fat molecules, thereby reducing the lipase activity action on the fat molecules. So the secondary action is that the fiber would form a stable molecule with bile salts, and bile salts' main purpose is to emulsify fats, and thereby by binding to bile salts, once again, the surface area to volume ratio for lipase activity would be reduced. And because the fiber itself is indigestible, what happens is that it will bring the fat molecules out of the body along with it. We have done supporting studies in terms of in vitro and in vivo studies. As compared to control and the macrofibers, the fiber itself shows a significant reduction in free fatty acids that will be released due to the hydrolysis of fat molecules. In vivo studies also shows that there's a 36% significantly lower rise in serum triglycerides, which is your fat absorbed into the bloodstream after feeding itself. In terms of toxicity studies, in vitro and in vivo studies shows no significant changes as well as differences as compared to the control. In terms of market comparison, Dietrics fibers itself has very direct effect, so it binds directly to fat molecules. For the competitors like oleogels, which is a mixture of polysaccharides and proteins, oftentimes because it tries to mimic the function of fat in food matrices itself, reformulation is required, and that gives a challenge to scalability. The other competitor are, for example, like your soluble fibers, which has indirect effect. So first, it has to be broken down by your gut, thereby inducing the satiety hormones that suppresses the feeling of hunger. So it's a two-step process, and it's subjective because everybody's gut microbiome is different and everybody's responses to hormones are different as well. In the long run, Dietrics fiber aims to be a lot more effective as well as affordable as compared to the market competitors out there. We have incorporated into coconut, vanilla, and chocolate ice cream no differences in taste, texture, formulation. The industrial partner that we are working with has manufacturing facilities in APAC region. In terms of business model, what we do is to extract the fiber from fibrous food waste like okara, sugarcane, barley spent grains. We are looking at potentially fruit skins as well. What we do is to process it into our fiber, and we sell it to F&B manufacturers to mass produce the end products to end consumers. So the primary revenue stream would come from the direct sales of the fiber to F&B partners. We are looking at seed fundraising, but this year's focus would be mainly on regulatory approvals, R&D into more food matrices, as well as pilot plant considerations. I think what we're really trying to push over here is a lifestyle change itself. So for everyone to enjoy their time with their family and friends without having to worry about growing fat, putting on weight the very next day. Our team is composed of Dr. Philip, who is a food toxicologist from Harvard, Dr. and Dr. Joachim. They are biomaterial scientists that looks at the functionality of food. So yeah, for more information, please feel free to contact us. Thank you.
Next, we have John from Allium Bio. Allium Bio uses a unique co-culture fermentation process to create sustainable and functional ingredients to level up the entire plant-based industry. John, over to you.
Hey, hi everybody. I am John, and I'm the CEO of Allium Bio, and we are a food tech and biotech startup creating better ingredients for better products for people and the planet. Our secret sauce here is that we are co-culturing microalgae and mycelium in order to really leverage the strengths of both of these plant species. Today, there are close to 1,000 companies developing alt protein products, but as a few folks today have already noted, nobody has really cracked that challenge of taste and texture and price, especially the balance of all three. But given the number of teams and the amount of capital in this space, there has to be something else at the root of this problem. At Allium Bio, our hunch is that it's the base ingredients. Today, it's ironic that the gold standard for plant-based ingredients is soy, a byproduct of the industrial ag industry. And while soy is by far the most affordable option, it also brings plenty of issues. Because of those issues, many teams have to mix in functional additives into their products, things like methylcellulose, oils, vitamins. You might have heard these names before. And yet, despite all of these additives, our industry is still falling a little bit short of that mark. And this is where we come in. At Allium Bio, we use a novel co-culturing system to create unique functional food ingredients. Our first product is a functional protein isolate that will replace soy protein and many of those common additives. In order to do this, we grow specific strains of microalgae and mycelium together. On one hand, microalgae is this natural treasure packed with protein, fats, and vitamins, but it's also expensive to grow at scale. On the other hand, mycelium is this flexible building block, creating protein and fiber from basically anything, but it's missing the fats and the vitamins. But when we ferment these two organisms together, we get this incredible 1 + 1 = 10 effect, where the final ingredient is more than the sum of its parts. In our co-culture, these species work together to improve the protein yield and the total biomass at a fraction of the regular cost of production. In this way, we get all the value of the microalgae, but with the scalability and the unit economics of the mycelium. And so while we're starting with the plant-based food industry because of the impact we can have there, we're already having great conversations with large food companies like Mondelez, Kraft Foods, Mondelez, around their interest in functional ingredients for their own portfolio of products. We also see value in licensing parts of this co-culture technology to enable other algae and mycelium innovators to build on this success in their own industries, like teams working on other alternatives or biofuel. For now, though, we're optimizing our leading strain combinations through a partnership with A-Star, who I'm sure you're all familiar with. And we have commitments from some incredible plant-based meat teams all around the world, from Nigeria to Australia to Taiwan and the US. The goal is to have samples of this V1 product for them in the coming months. But today at this stage, I wanted to share some of the really exciting results from our first couple co-cultures. On the left there, you can see that we've taken a strain of mycelium, the root structure of the fungi, and we've cultured it in a liquid media to prepare it for a co-culture. This is a key part of the technology, preparing the fungi strains to work symbiotically with the algae strains. And then on the right half of the slide, you can see two strains of microalgae, starting off very green in the before section, as you can typically imagine an algae, and then transforming them after we've grown them with a very specific process to induce the properties we're looking for, among those a more neutral color and odor and taste, as well as speed of growth. And then here's a little bit more exciting. When we co-culture these strains together, we've already been able to see some of the interactions and behaviors that we're optimizing the final product for. So for example, they're flocculating, basically forming this single biomass instead of particles floating around in a media. We're also able to maintain that neutral yellowish color, as well as the odor and the taste. As well as the total biomass already being more than just the algae and the mycelium, a little bit of evidence that the species are working symbiotically to grow larger together than they would have alone. Of course, you can also see that when we process it, a little bit of minimal processing, we're able to get this really flexible food ingredient. So we are pretty excited about it, even though there's still some work to be done. So in terms of work being done, we are about here in our development process. So we still have a ways to go with a couple of things, in particular, the growth speed multiple, the biomass multiple, and of course, the protein multiple. But we've already got ideas on optimizing those, and we're running several new co-cultures now. And as we develop this technology, we're really confident that we can get down production costs to this single-digit target per kilogram and really quickly start producing metric tons of this ingredient for the whole food industry. Just to share very quickly about the team behind Allium Bio, I spent the last couple of years as an associate at AgFunder, one of the leading agri-food tech VCs in the world, working with this global portfolio of incredible food tech founders as they were working on all sorts of challenges. Previously had launched a number of projects and startups across APAC. And then Albertus, my CTO and co-founder, is a biochemist PhD turned food scientist with technical experience in microbial fermentation, molecular biology, biochemistry. As a researcher at A-Star, he actually spent the last almost half decade working on all sorts of strain selection, fermentation researching projects with a direct focus on alt protein and food science. So if you're interested in what we're doing, you want to get involved with samples or partnerships or anything else, again, my name is John. My email's here, there's a QR code, and I'd love to hear from you. We are Allium Bio, and we're creating better ingredients for better products for people and the planet. Thank you.
Next, we have Mandy from ImpacFat. ImpacFat creates omega-3 rich cell-based fish fat as a nutrition reservoir and brings tasty and healthy fat to everyone in a sustainable manner. Mandy, the time is yours.
Hi everyone, I am Mandy. I'm the co-founder and managing director of ImpacFat. So ImpacFat is all about just two words, which is good fat. We want to enhance both nutrition and taste at the same time with our cultivated fish fat. So fat is flavor. I think these three words pretty much sum up the importance of fat. Well, fat actually makes food really tasty and juicy, but I think you'll probably also have another concern while looking at this. Health. Will eating too much of these lead into problems like obesity, heart attack, or even stroke? So this leads me to think about one question. Why do we always have to sacrifice our health for good taste? Why not both? So our solution is the good fat. We are working on fish fat because it has a really high nutrition value like omega-3 and antioxidant, but at the same time, it retains all the flavor and texture that we want in the fat. So best of both worlds together, why not? Now, let's look into how do we get our fish fat today. There are generally two methods that we are working with today. Firstly is through traditional fish farming, which involve a huge amount of land, really high manpower costs, a long time of production, and of course, the usage of antibiotics as well. The second method is wild fishing. Well, the main problem for this is that we are often overkilling the animals, but at the same time, the fishes are also facing a lot of pollution problems in the ocean as well. Let's look into the fish fat in the future with ImpacFat and why are we important. Firstly, we help you to cut down the land cost because we don't need a big amount of land to produce a fish fat. Secondly, we can reduce the manpower cost significantly as well. We can shorten the time of production from few months to years into just 2 weeks. So while we are able to reduce so much opportunity cost compared to the traditional method, we can do this without using any antibiotics, without killing any fishes, and also without the worries of any pollution problem as well. So starting in year 2019, ImpacFat is actually one of the first company that is focusing on seafood cultivated fat in the world. So what makes us different? So compared to livestock fat, which generally contains a lot more of the unhealthy fat that we want to cut down in our diet, ImpacFat contains a lot more of the healthy fat that we want to gain. Secondly, our products are also more stable, more natural, without any GMO, without any heavy processing required as well. So our technology involves the establishing of the same stem cell lines from the fishes. After that, we have to grow them, then differentiate them into the mature fat cells. So all these technology processes and also the cell lines were all being patented internationally as well. So we have 2 prototypes to date. And in year 2021, we had our first prototype with a plant-based pork product. That is actually because our product is actually neutral in taste and there is no fishiness. So this opens up a lot more exciting opportunities and possibilities for us. So last year, we also had the honor to launch the world's first cultivated fish fat tasting event. And this was being approved by SFA Singapore as well. So our go-to market is actually B2B as a novel ingredient. So some of the market that we are focusing and targeting is alternative proteins market. So we want to improve the taste and also the texture and the nutrition together with our fat. We want to improve the public acceptance level of alternative proteins with a fat as well. So second product will be pretty interesting, consumer food product. So imagine this. So this instant noodles is often known as unhealthy, but what if we can replace the oil to be something healthier? Will you be considering taking it? So on top of the food product and the industries, we are also looking into adjacent markets like cosmetic and skincare product, and of course, nutritional supplements as well. So for the coming 2 years, ImpacFat is focusing a lot on scaling up, cost reduction, and also product optimization before the commercialization phases. So meet our co-founders. We have Dr. Shigeki, who has more than 20 years of experience in fat and stem cell research. Myself has more than 10 years of experience in international F&B companies. We also have a team of nutrition scientists, food scientists, and also pharmacists in the team as well. So being a spin-off from A-Star, we have been really active, and we also won a couple of awards, being featured in the media for a couple of times over the past few months. So we are currently looking into seed round funding of $3 million to achieve 3 main milestones. So the first one is to scale up and build our pilot scale system. Secondly is to hire top talent, and last but not least, for regulatory approval processes. So thank you so much for having me today, and I'm looking forward to meet all of you and also share with you further as well. Thank you so much.
Last but not the least, we have Gracia from DiMuto. DiMuto is a global agri-fintech company that powers agri-trade with AI, data visibility, and financing. Gracia, over to you to tell us more.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm very happy to be here. So I'm Gracia, I'm the head of Tech Ops in DiMuto. So basically DiMuto is a B2B trade management platform, and our aim here is to basically help the growers, exporter, importers, retailers, such as your supermarket, to basically trade efficiently, but also sustainably. Yeah, so just a little bit of background about the agri-food industry. Actually, it's not as efficient as you would imagine it. You know, for an apple to reach your favorite supermarket, actually, it takes about 3 months. So that's a little fun fact over there. And it has to go through many hurdles because it goes through different parties like the farmers, and then it gets passed on to your exporters, the shippers, your retailers, and even within the company itself, there are multiple departments involved. So the problem that stems from this complex system is that you wouldn't know the quality and essentially where your product is at any single point. And this makes the trade settlement actually a very lengthy and complicated process. Yeah, and of course, it also comes with, let's say, dispute because of the quality, no access to market, and the banks don't play in this field as well. And that's why there's a huge trade finance gap, about 1.5 trillion actually. Yeah, so what DiMuto is here for is basically we provide 3-pronged solutions. So it begins with the trade management solution, where we try to provide visibility of the products for each carton. And then with this traceability, we can actually have the confidence to lend through our financial services and give them access to the marketplace. So I'll explain more in detail later on. Okay, so the trade management actually is built on a QR code technology, whereby every single carton and even the fruit can be labeled with this unique QR code. So it's like kind of like a passport or a ID, unique identity for each of the box. And what's happening here is during the packing line, we have this device, which we call DACI, Digital Asset Creation, which scans the QR code, take a picture of each individual box so that you know the quality upon packing. And this concept is similar, as you will see later on down the supply chain as well. So what we do with this data is that we aggregate it into our platform, whereby you can see this kind of visualization dashboard for the management as well as the operations team. Okay, so over here you would see the supply chain. So it begins at the farm. We have the farm application to kind of collect the information on, how much water has been used at the farm, what kind of pesticide, as well as, for example, the packing situation, the inspection reports. So all this is attached down the supply chain as they scan the QR code. So goes over to the other side when it's received at the other end. We also attach shipping reports, for example, as well as the receiving details, the quality upon the receiving. Yeah, and over here, throughout the supply chain, we are actually collecting the sustainability metrics like water usage, carbon emission, wastage especially, and of course the monetary cost as well. And why we want to do this is because we also want to make the company, be more aware about their impact on the whole ecosystem. Yeah. So why is it important for them to be more aware of this ESG, right? It's because for our financial services, we don't just look at pure financial data, but we also look at their product quality through this AI that we have to analyze every single box that was taken by the DACI. We also analyze their transactions data, whatever they input into our platform, as well as the sustainability data, because we want to play in the space of financing for impact, not just the traditional financing. Yeah. And for our marketplace, we actually have a unique concept whereby we only allow traceable suppliers and buyers to be there. So it's kind of exclusive, and the intention behind this is so that, traceability is important, sustainability is important. If you want to get the financial services or access to market, please do that first. So yeah, it's kind of like an incentivizing these good behaviors in a way with this traceability. So just to share a bit about our presence, we are actually present globally. In Q1, Q2 so far, we have been focusing on the APAC market, but in Q3, Q4, moving forward, we'll be expanding into the Latin America. And the reason why is because, as you would know, the agri-food industry, not all fruits are grown in one specific area. It's actually distributed globally. They have different seasonality as well. And that's the reason why we actually have global presence. And this is the markets that we are trying to connect. Okay, so actually there are lots of good companies out there with very good solutions who have been trying to tackle these issues in the supply chain. But what makes us different is that we believe that this interconnected, complex nature of the supply chain issues is needing a solution that is interconnected as well. And that's where DiMuto comes in. So we provide the traceability, but then we also incentivize them, help them with the issues of access to capital as well as the market. Yeah, and that's how we are slightly different from the other players out there. So behind this great solution, so we have a team that consists of experienced professionals who have decades of experience in the finance industry as well as the agri-food industry. And then we have a good mix as well of the young people who are just passionate to bring this technology and digital transformation into the agri-food industry. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. So please feel free to reach out if you want to collaborate or yeah, we can talk about it. Yeah.
With that, we've come to the end of today's The Future of Food Corporate Startup Pitch event. Apologies for going a little bit over time, but we would like to thank GFI APAC for their industry insights and all the presenters for sharing your solutions. We would also like to thank our audience for joining us and staying till the end. We hope this has been an insightful session for you. Today's poll results will be shared with our startups and they'll be reaching out to you. If you'd like to speak to us regarding corporate engagement matters, feel free to reach out to us as well. We look forward to seeing you again at our next event. Have a great evening. Goodbye.